Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Xony, and today we're going to have some more stories from Reddit. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go. Now let's get into today's stories to find out what happened. My wife and I met on a hiking trip. After we were convinced by each of our friends to come along, we instantly knew we wanted to do this more often. As soon as we met, she gave me butterflies. She was outgoing and outdoorsy, confident but anxious about getting close to other people. She told me she had some past boyfriends that broke her trust. Hiking with the same group of people in the spring, summer, or fall was great for her and me. After the first hike, we started going on dates. We got married nearly 3 years later. We were married for 3 years, and during our marriage we hiked with that same group of friends, which consisted of Clay, his brother, and 3 girls. Working full-time sucked us away for a while. Before we knew it, it had been 3 months since we hiked with our friends in the spring. And if we didn't hurry, we'd miss the whole summer. The last time we went, I noticed my wife talking and laughing with Clay more than she ever had before. Usually she stuck pretty close to 2 of the girls and me. I'd like to say I didn't pay it any mind, but it bothered me, and maybe that's why I avoided hiking for a while. I noticed my wife was texting him, but when I asked why she said I didn't need to be immature or jealous. I told her that was just something she could say to defend herself. Then she told me that Clay was already seeing someone. I didn't think this was true, and just seemed like a clever way to get me to leave her alone about it a week after that. So still about 3 months since she started talking to Clay all the time. She said she wanted to go hiking with the crew again that weekend and camp on Friday night. I thought it was awfully convenient for her to bring this up after I told her I had to work this weekend because my boss insisted I specifically had to work Friday afternoon and Saturday morning. She told me it wasn't her idea to go this specific day, but one of the girls, since she was moving away the week after and wouldn't be able to hike with us anymore. So then I felt bad and was pressured to allow my wife to go with her and the rest of the group without me. We'd known them for years, and I didn't think she'd run off with Clay, who'd apparently just come out of the closet. So she left Friday just before my shift at work. I got home late, super lonely, and went to work the next morning. I wanted to call her or text, but she didn't have a signal. In the woods there were a few spots we set up camp before, just off the trail in certain recognizable areas. No service anywhere. I got home Saturday and anxiously waited for her to return. When 7:00 p.m. rolled around, I was annoyed. They weren't supposed to camp another night. I called Clay and his brother first, but they didn't answer. I called each of the girls, and they all answered. They'd all told me the same story, that they got home around 2:00 p.m. and assumed my wife was going to head home too, but she was still at the site when they left. Also, none of the girls were moving. They could have done this hiking trip on a weekend when I was off. I was getting more disheartened as the night went on. I wondered if she got lost in the woods. Then Clay's brother called me back. He said his brother was home sleeping, and my wife stayed behind to camp with one of the girls another night. I told him that lie wouldn't work because I already knew all 3 girls were home. He was speechless for a minute, but then played it off like his memory might have been foggy, or maybe the girl changed her mind. He asked me if my wife would camp by herself for a night, and I told him she wouldn't. I demanded and pressured him for the truth, knowing he was trying to hide something. He caved in and admitted she was at their house with Clay in his room. I drove straight to his house. Clay's brother let me in but begged me to go easy on him. I opened the door and found my wife on top of him. I had prepared myself on the car ride over that this was going to be bad. But it was different actually seeing it. They struggled to get off each other quickly, and my wife acted like I was intruding on her special night. I couldn't believe my ears as she said I had no right to hunt her down and just walk in on them. I called her a very insulting name that is usually given to women who sleep around. I told her she was cheating on me, but I felt stupid even having to spell it out for her. I should have every right to prove myself a good man and find her. It means I care, which is than I'd expect from her. It was like she thought I was stupid or wouldn't try to look for her when she didn't return from a camping trip. Then she said Clay convinced her I'd never find out and even got his brother to lie for us. That's when Clay spoke up and said it was her that started coming on to him. Even while I was hiking tent behind them, my wife looked at him like she wanted to strangle him. AP apologized to me and said he made a mistake. He wanted to start making it right immediately by telling me the truth. I just asked him to give us some space. He left the room, and my wife tried to say nothing even really happened. I knew right then that I didn't want to say another word to her, and it wouldn't matter if I did. I wish her luck finding another place to live and left the house. I knew my wife didn't have her car, so AP would probably have to give her a ride somewhere at the least. I just didn't care. I wanted karma to work however it needed to. She started living at Clay's house, but it only lasted a week. He felt bad for what he did to me by taking my wife, and just because she did it with him didn't mean he had to house her. He told me she really planned to stay in the woods with him but didn't want the police to start searching for them there if I reported her missing. When he kicked her out, I thanked him for it and for trying to make this right. It helped me to realize it was my fault and I could get through it. I found a new group of friends to go fishing with instead of the hikers. I enjoy it a lot because it doesn't remind me of her. It feels like adventure and change. She completely betrayed me, but didn't get to live happily ever after. She lived with one of the hiking girls, the only friend she had left. This girl didn't want her there after a short while and started making life a little harder for her, like eating her groceries and parking behind her car in the driveway instead of on the street. She actually messaged me and told me I dodged a bullet even if I was with her for 6 years. My ex started trying to date again, and she hated it so much that she kicked her out after annoying the heck out of her. Now let's get into today's second story. My wife, 29, and I, 34, were married for 5 years. We met at a New Year's Eve party hosted by her father. She had one sister who used to be friends with me. After I started dating her sister's sister, our relationship diminished. I don't think it was because she was upset. I knew she was glad her sister married me. She knew I was a good man, but there just wasn't as much motivation for us to continue a close relationship like that. During the time we were married, my wife was working at the same place and did great work. She was anxiously awaiting a promotion and big raise. That day finally came and she was ecstatic. When she got home, the night after work, she was super pleased with herself. We went on a road trip as soon as the money started to come in, and that was the best memory I have of her. When we got back, things started to change and I didn't know it at the time. But something had already changed before we went on our road trip. She continued working, but she started coming home and acting strange. She avoided eye contact, especially when I asked her how work went. And even though we used to cook dinner together every night, she started to insist that I work on my project or do something else while she cooked. This went on for a week, and then one night we were in bed, and I started taking off her panties. She immediately started crying. It was obviously a red flag. When I asked what was going on, she didn't even try to lie. It's like the sentence of truth was already formed in her mind, like a cat in a bag instead of words in her head. She said her boss finally offered her the raise and promotion on one condition. I held my breath as she told me she had intimate with him. I just started crying. I was surprised because I never cry. I think I was really shocked because I didn't see this coming, and we just got back from our road trip. She cried too and told me she did this because she thought it would better our lives and bring us closer together. As long as I never found out, and it was just once, I told her I would have given all money in the world for her not to do this. She started crying harder and whined that she knew that, and she made a huge mistake. I asked her if this was just a one-time event, and she hesitated before saying yes. I let that go in the moment because I knew it didn't even matter if she slept with him more than once. Once was enough. I said if she wanted to make it up to me, she had to help me get her boss fired. The color left her face, and she said she didn't want to. I told her it's the only way she can make this right. She asked how we could get him fired. I told her to get proof that there was infidelity by exposing his text messages. She told me that she did what she had to for my proof, but she still expected forgiveness in the hopes it would help me forgive her. Then she asked me to type out the email to her boss so we could get him fired and I could start forgiving her. Told her I never planned to forgive her for this. I already filed for divorce around the same time she was getting her proof of infidelity for me. I told her I wouldn't trust her with a pet goldfish anymore, let alone my heart. She never should have accepted any amount of money for cheating on me. I told her she actually deserved that promotion without sleeping with him because she worked hard. She started crying again as I told her that she could have gone to headquarters about his unlawful and degrading request, but instead she gave him what he wanted, and perhaps because she wanted it too, she could have been honorable and behaved like the lady her father raised her to be. Taking a sleazy offer like this and believing I'd never found out told me she didn't deserve me or know what it means to be a respectable person. She was shocked that I didn't plan on forgiving her, which is why she got me proof to fire her boss. She didn't know I was also going to mention her name and request she be fired too because she spoke to coworkers about it and made them uncomfortable. I told her to get out, but she begged me to at least let her sleep on the couch. I told her I couldn't afford the temptation of having her near me. She betrayed me, so I couldn't allow her near me. She needed to suffer the consequences. It was difficult. I wasn't sure if I'd need to call the police to get her out, but I didn't think they'd get involved like that. Since she was on the D2, she had the option to tell her father I was leaving her, and he'd give her a place to stay. That's exactly what she did, but she really didn't want to tell him why I left her. He called me, so I told him. He was extremely embarrassed and ashamed. Her mother cheated on him years ago, so he raised her as best he could to understand how terrible it is to do that to someone. He was so embarrassed that he didn't tell any of their family members or friends that his daughter had moved in with him again. Both my ex-wife and AP were fired from their jobs and divorced. AP didn't even trust her enough to continue seeing her because she filmed him without his knowledge and made him lose his job. I'd say everything turned out as it should have in my situation. I started dating again, but I'm not going to quickly attach to anyone, and maybe that's for the better.